All right, Mike, let's talk about our highest grades for the entirety of the draft, team by team. We're not going to go through every team. We're going to have some more podcasts next week, and we'll get to your team eventually if we don't go in-depth tonight. Have a little grace. It's only 10:38 p.m., but we were here till 2:30 the last two mornings, and as an old person, that's pretty late for me.
You were, I wasn't. I had a little bit earlier. I was 1:30, so.
Yeah, you're younger and better shape, and I'm glad you got that extra hour of sleep. Mike and I both had the Titans as A-pluses, I believe, in terms of our grades. And so we'll start with them since we both like them a lot. And Debo can flash the actual picks, and I'll just read them quickly if you're listening. Cam Ward went first overall, of course. Femi Oladejo was in the second round. Edge rusher at UCLA. Kelvin Winston Jr., injured safety out of Penn State after game 2, came back and ran a 4.5. He actually, you know who he told that to first? He told it to Debo at the combine. Debo caught him in the hallway, and he said, I'm going to run a 4.5 when I ran it. He kept his word there. Kamari DK, the big slot out of Florida, ran a 4.3s. Gunnar Helm, the tight end. Oh, my gosh, I forgot they got him. Aya Minor, the wide receiver, possession wide receiver, physical out of Stanford. And then they ran it out with a guard, cornerback, and running back, so I won't burden you with that. But, Mike, tell me what you think about this draft class.
Well, also you got to add Xavier Restrepo as a UDFA.
That's
to
right.
The Tennessee Titans, his college teammate. So, I love that because they did have a connection. Like, there was something there that I think he actually could carve out a role very early on because of that. Like, how that does matter, building rapport like that he's had so much, and you could see it even at the pro day.
Let me ask you this, because I think I mentioned to you, if he had not run the 4.85 40 and just did the 3-cone, which is sub 7, he's getting drafted, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. His tape's good. His tape was
really good.
I know people who had his tape as top 75. I was a little touch lower on that just because he is such a odd frame. Like, he looks like a running back. He's got short arms, small wingspan.
If he ran a 4.5, if you told me day 3, day 2, I would be like, okay, I could see that.
But he very much, slot production more often than not are you on the same page with the quarterback? Does he trust you to be where you're supposed to be? So that's a great pickup for them. And I like that they just started throwing shots at wide receiver. You have Calvin Ridley. Let's give our guy something. And the shots they threw are speed guys. Kamari DK, Eliki Elmanor. They can get down the football field. And so it's going to be a different era of Tennessee Titans football. Last year was very ugly at times, but also very measured because they didn't have the pass protection and they didn't have the receivers to actually attack down the football field. Watching DeAndre Hopkins try to run a go route was, okay. I mean, Levis can push it down. He's got the arm to push it down, but just like we didn't get to see it. And then Gunnar Helm, man, he could play ball. Gunnar Helm is a good tight end.
Yep, I think he's like tight end 3.
Not an athlete, but he is a good blocker.
I think you're actually underselling him. The Michigan game, he was pretty athletic.
Yeah, like I thought I didn't see speed on tape, but at no point was I like his athleticism is going to be a liability for him at the next level, the way his testing ended up being. But obviously came after sprained ankle in his very first run at the combine. That was a pretty gruesome sprained ankle, and that's not going to help you. Even coming back from that, you're not going to run at your best at your pro day and whatnot. So it was a great draft. Obviously, the highlights, Kevin Winston Jr. for me. His tape was so good as a sophomore. I believe he was my safety 2 coming in this year behind Malachi Starks. And truthfully, like, he has more prototypical traits even than Malachi Starks. He has a bigger wingspan than Nick Worry, who, like, you look at him and you're like, yeah, that guy's huge. Winston, and he's an awesome tackler. He missed only 2 tackles his entire collegiate career. So they were getting a darn good one there in the 3rd round.
Yeah, he was I'm looking here, my safety 4. I loved Angel McCuba, even though he's undersized. He was safety 3 for me. I like Jalen Reed a little bit higher than most folks. I think he ended up going late on day 3. The other safety next to Kevin Winston, who had to play once Kevin got hurt. And the other thing I'll mention, Chickaconquo is in the final year of his deal, the tight end in Tennessee. So the Gunnar Helm pick makes some sense there.
And just drastically different types of tight ends.
And that's, again, you talk about the quote-unquote lack of athleticism for Gunnar Helm, at least compared to Chickaconquo. Chick is another one of these athletic tight ends that hasn't quite reached his potential for whatever reason. So just because you're a 4.3 tight end doesn't mean it's going to necessarily translate. We've had that conversation with Kyle Pitts and Evan Ingram up until a point. We're still waiting on Noah Fant. You talked about them doubling up on getting athletic tight ends out there, and so on and so forth. All right, next up for you, and we'll go. I'll just mention the other teams that are your highest grade, and you can maybe mention a team or two, and we'll go through them. The Ravens, the Giants, we talked about them earlier, the Buccaneers, and the Cardinals. So where do you want to start there?
Yeah, I'll say the Giants I really hyped up earlier, but like that was a draft that outside of Jackson Dart, which again, we got to admit that we don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Scouting. He has tools to develop, and he goes to a great place where he's not going to have to start for like probably 2 years, truthfully. So good landing spot. This was far and away Joe Shane's best draft. Baltimore Ravens, though, man, they just that was such a good draft. It just like in terms of not only impact, but guys who could be truly stars. A lot of times when you're like, oh, they got value in my board, but it's just like, yeah, they got guys who can be like solid players. No, Malachi Starks could be like a top 3 to 5 safety in the NFL.
It is insane to me that he is going to line up next to Kyle Hamilton.
And and you're lining him up next to Kyle Hamilton. Mike Green can be like an elite pass rusher. He has a great get off. He has exceptional bend. He uses his hands.
He is
really
what
well
they were probably hoping for Odafe Oweh to develop into, and Ajabo before he got hurt. Both guys going into the final year, they're rookie deals.
Yes. So, and you got him at 59. We all know why, but they still, he's going to be on a football field next year, and he's going to be pretty darn good. And then Emory Jones has high-end traits. Like he was a first-round mock guy at tackle, and people thought he could stay at tackle. And I think this past year proved he's probably not a tackle, but he's going to the best situation for him, because when you're blocking for Lamar Jackson, oftentimes you can't really run past your offensive lineman. You have to play your gaps, and you have to hold the point. And that's where he didn't struggle. He struggled with speed.
And he could be day one right guard for Daniel Faalele.
Yeah, or left guard for Voorhees.
Right.
Either one of those spots. I think he could very well start early. And I would not surprise me whatsoever. I love Carson Vincent as a developmental tackle from Alabama A&M. Just prototypical size and just the way he holds the weight and the body composition is great for a developmental tackle. And then I love Aeneas Peebles. I think
he's fun, man.
At minimum, an impact third down guy. To get that in the 6th, man, like a 4.93 40 is get off one of the best in this draft class. That's a great pick.
So they have Matabike. They have who's the UConn
Travis
guy?
Jones.
Travis Jones, and now you have Aeneas Peebles. That's going to be awesome for Will Howard as he carves that team up with no one to block for him. Before I'm gonna skip to one of my teams real quick, just because I want to compare. They're not on your list, but I think that we can have a conversation about better overall draft. The Baltimore Ravens or the Buffalo Bills, who I gave an A+ to. You didn't give an A+ to. Oh, well, you're not as crazy about TJ Sanders as I am.
TJ Sanders is the back end of my top 100. They took him 41. And to me, he's redundant-ish to Ed Oliver. They're going to have to play the same.
That's a good problem to have.
If you have both, but if you have both on the football field at the same time, your run defense could be in bad shape.
Well, let's look at the grades here if you're looking on the screen, because Chris Trapasso, Pete did the first one, but Chris Trapasso did the rest of the Bills. He's a Bills guy, lives in Buffalo. Does some work for the Bills as well. So he gave the A to TJ Sanders, B- to Landon Jackson, A to Deion Walker, and Mike and I and Traps are all on the same page about Deion Walker's potential. I love Jordan Hancock as a back-end developmental safety. He's a good athlete, tested well. Jackson Hawes as a blocking tight end. He might be the best blocking tight end in this class. And they finished out with Dorian Strong, Chase Lunt, the developmental offensive tackle, who I thought could have gone higher. And then the Caden Prather, the wide receiver, got a B+ as well. So Traps seems pretty happy about this draft. So I'll put it to you this way. If the Baltimore Raven draft class is playing a pickup basketball game against the Buffalo Bills draft class to expand it, and we can do like home run hitting contest if you want to take it to all sports here. Who's winning that?
So I think the Ravens has more upside. I think the Bills probably has a few more hits. It's like with the Ravens, you probably hit a couple bombs.
Yeah.
Maybe you struck out. But with the Bills, you're hitting some singles, some doubles. You got a lot of good players. And one thing about Brandon Beane is he has been exceptional with day 3 secondary. And I think Dorian Strong is I think there's a good chance he could be the other starter there. He's played a ton of football at Virginia Tech. I think for their scheme, they've been so good at developing and finding those day 3 either safeties or corners.
And as Debo reminds me, it looks like our buddy Josh Edwards, Browns fan, did rounds 5, 6, and 7 of the Bills draft. Just so
Chase Lunt, B-. Chase Lunt's a good pick.
No, I liked it as well. All right, let's go back to your guys. I wanted to compare those two draft classes because I think they're both absolute grand slams. And let's go to the Cardinals, because I actually like the Cardinals draft class. We haven't talked a lot about the Cardinals, so let's give them some love, because Walter Nolan at 16. Do you think that was too high? Or are you okay with that?
No, I had him at 12th on my board.
Oh, Kenneth Grant, you were a little high with the 13th.
Kenneth Grant was the one where
gotcha.
We might get to that with the can't believe I actually didn't have the Dolphins in my lowest grade. I didn't. Love the
we can include them.
But I think that was actually my least favorite first round pick. But this was one of my favorites. Nolan's so talented, and he goes to a great scheme for him. I mean, physically, the guys that are comparable to what he can do in terms of unlocking his hips and then explosiveness throughout his frame, not just like get off explosiveness, but then in his hands, the ability to, just manipulate a guard and throw him to the side on contact. The guys that have that are guys that are getting paid like $20+ million a year to play defensive tackle in the NFL. Guys like Javon Hargrave, Jalen Carter, that for Jonathan Gannon, those guys have both played for Jonathan Gannon.
Yep.
Did Carter timeline, whatever. Still, this is the perfect defensive tackle for Jonathan Gannon's defense. That's why I think they were willing to eschew where people are like, character concerns. Does he fall out of the first round? No, this is where he should have gone.
Yeah, and then Will Johnson, who, I've said it to death now, you and I liked him a lot in the summer. Probably wouldn't have run very well. I don't care. He's a really good football player. Denzel Burke, 5th round pick. He was a top 50 guy at some point, maybe 2 years ago.
At minimum, more talented than that. His tape was poop this last year, but at minimum, he has put on much better tape than that in the past.
Yes.
And I'll say this about Will Johnson. I think what was it, Ian Rappaport? Someone made the comp to Miles Jack as the knee issue that he has was what Miles Jack had coming out. Miles Jack gave the Jags like 4 darn good years at linebacker position. If you get 4 to 5 darn good years out of Will Johnson, I don't think you're really complaining about pick 47.
At 247. Right, exactly. Right. Jordan Birch, I think you like him a little bit more than I did, but he looks the part getting off the bus. And I'll just mention Cody Simon, the linebacker at Ohio State. No one would have predicted at the beginning of the year, I don't think, that he would have gone ahead of Denzel Burke, but here we are. And Rick talked to Cody Simon last season because he talked to a lot of the Ohio State kids, and he said he told Cody Simon in the meeting, you could be working in the front office right now. He's incredibly smart, and he had a good end to that season along with virtually everyone else on that team at Ohio State. Anything else you want to hit on with those guys? Or you just talk for a second about Jordan Birch so you can give him some love so I don't have to.
He's just extremely explosive. I mean, he's not too dissimilar just from a size, get off, impressiveness standpoint to a Shamar Stewart. Now, Stewart's got a bit of a better body composition at the moment, more longer arms and is younger. But, I mean, he can be a bull rush only type of guy. And he goes to a spot where he doesn't need to really be a 3-down guy just yet. They have so many edge rushers now. Like they went into last year's draft with nobody before the draft, Darius Robinson, and now all of a sudden it's like, does he even see the field, Jordan Birch? But he doesn't have to, and he's improved over the course of his career. So I think there's a good chance that we're looking back 3 years from now being like, that guy went where with what he's capable of. So,
and that's a good point. So now we have Darius Robinson, Walter Nolan, and Jordan Birch along your defensive line, and that's certainly an upgrade. I'm sure Jonathan Gannon is much more excited about that.
And Josh Sweat and Baron Browning, and they put Zaven Collins on the edge, and it's like, oh wow, the defensive line that stunk for the first 2 years in Jonathan Gannon's regime, they might actually have one of the better defensive lines in the NFL here soon.
All right, let's go to a couple of my picks before we take a break here in terms of highest grades. I'm going to go to Atlanta because you and I, we talked about this on HQ earlier. They have forever drafted skill position players in the top 5 to 10 picks, it feels like. And they said, Raheem Morrison, Terry Fontenot, I said, listen, man, we're going to go all defense until the very last pick. Jalen Walker at 15, traded back into the first round to get James Pierce Jr. at 26. And you might say, well, they had to give a first-round pick to do that. And I would say he's a first-round talent, so you got him now as opposed to waiting a year. Got Mike's guy, Xavier Watts, the safety out of Notre Dame, as Mike has pointed out, former wide receiver with 13 interceptions the last 2 years. And then the little spark plug of this, Billy Bowman, tested really well. I think he's better coming downhill than in space, but whatever.
By slot.
There you go. And then Jack Nelson to round it out, depth at offensive tackle. Are you okay with the idea? Because we're okay with Jackson Dart in terms of first-round consideration. You're getting James Pierce productivity day one for that first-round pick.
Yeah, it just depends on your eval. You know, Chris Trapasso has him number 1 on his board. Obviously, if that's what it seems to be. That's like what the Falcons probably had, right? It's kind of like the Vikings trading up for Dallas Turner last year. Now, I don't think he's as good a prospect as Dallas Turner, but like you do a eval on a guy, you come back with a grade. The grade says he's a top 5 sort of talent. And James Pierce definitely has like top 5 sort of athletic traits, right? So if you do that, and all of a sudden you see that guy slip into whatever, you know, what was it, pick 26?
26.
You get him slipping to pick 26, and you're Terry Fontenot, and you're maybe on the hot seat a little bit, and you're like, I'm giving up what my trade value chart says is worth pick 16. We have this guy's top 5 talent. That's surplus value in my mind. Now,
Right.
Again, you shouldn't always be overconfident in the draft that your evals are correct, but there are people that had that high grade. It's not like
if you're not overconfident, what are you supposed to do? Are you
not trade future first rounders?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah. So like saying that I know that this guy's going to be great, but like,
Gotcha.
If you have that higher grade, chances are you think they're going to be great. So it's when everyone lampooned them last year, obviously they turned out to be dead right in it. We'll see how this fares. But at minimum, from a team building strategy, they are paying the 2 highest paid positions in the NFL over the next 4 years rookie deals.
Which is that sells. That's
So
something
if they
you
hit,
can work with. Yeah.
If you hit the high end on those, it makes building the rest of that roster easy peasy.
And they have Braylon Trice coming back from injury. I think he was a 3rd-round pick last year to Washington. Yeah. He's not the athletic talent of these two, but he can certainly provide some depth should he get back to full health. The last one I'll mention here quickly, and we talked about this team earlier, you talk about going to all defense, the 49ers. So we talked about C.J. West earlier as one of your guys, Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, the first 2 draft picks, edge rusher and defensive lineman. And then Nick Martin out of Oklahoma State, who I wrote in my notes, if he was a couple inches taller and 15 pounds heavier, he's a top 50 guy, maybe even top 32. I love the way he played off-ball linebacker. They did get some help at wide receiver eventually in Jordan Watkins, who has a little juice. Got your guy Jordan James, running back out of Oregon. He liked a lot and drafted the next what's his face here, and Curtis Rourke, quarterback out of Indiana, the next Brock Purdy. Forgot his name there.
Curtis Rourke, they have the weakest armed quarterback room in modern NFL history.
Curtis Rourke trying to rehab from ACL, catching strays from
Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, and Curtis Rourke.
Oh, Mac Jones, my guy Mac Jones.
First to throw the ball 55 yards in the air gets to be starter. Might take a while. This draft, though, I love it too. I don't know why I didn't go A+, but like
we gave a lot of A+.
What they wanted to do, although the one criticism I have actually, that's why I didn't go A+. You have a bad offensive line. You have a bad offensive line, and you have a 36-year-old left tackle who's the only thing holding it from being probably the worst offensive line in the NFL. And you don't
I'm going to push back on this because this is something you made with the Texans. So Michael Williams, I don't have the list in front of me. There could have been an offensive lineman there perhaps instead of Michael. But you made this about the Texans now. You take Ursary in round 2, or are you taking Alfred Collins? Who makes you better?
Well, it's not. It's more just like down the board. I would have liked to add.
Oh, I see.
It didn't have to be top of the draft.
Okay, fair enough.
Right? Like it's more like back end of the 3rd, Wyatt Milam's there or something instead of Nick Martin. And it's like, it's not necessarily, it's just, you didn't add Connor Colby's literally the only one, and it was the 33rd pick in the 7th round. That is a throwaway pick. You could have just taken some shots instead of Jordan Watkins mid-4th to be who you just drafted, who's the Arizona wide receiver that they just drafted last year, who's Jacob Cowing. To be Jacob Cowing.
Jacob Cowing, I forgot about him.
They're like the same player, but you drafted him this year. That pick could have been an offensive lineman just to throw something at this room. Because again, if Trent Williams goes down, Jalen Moore ain't saving you this year, and it's the worst offensive line in the NFL. And you're objectively not winning a Super Bowl with that offensive line, look at the rest of the NFC. You got to face the Eagles. You're going to face the Lions with this line. You're going to face the Giants with this. I shouldn't throw the Giants in there, but you know what I'm saying. There are defensive lines in the NFL. In the NFC
oh, you know what? I'm going to push back. I'm trying to check here. So 438, the 130th pick, they took Jordan Watkins, wide receiver. At pick 137, Johnny Cornelius, the right tackle out of Oregon, went off the board there. Now, there were other options after that. Marcus Bowe went 3 picks prior to that. Okay. So maybe they had a run on guys. I'm just seeing what happens.
Devil's advocate. Fair enough.
Yeah, as I look through this, because
but I love Jordan James as well. Even if you didn't need a running back, I think he's a great zone runner.
And the fact they didn't take one in the 3rd round is a progress for
right. Yeah, you waited until the right spot.
Yeah,
and I'll just say for people, Nick Martin consensus board, I think was like 100 spots lower than this. I never understood why he's, for my money, just on film, he's the most athletic linebacker in this draft class. Like that at minimum.
That will not push back on that at all.
He's
fun.
It usually goes top 100. I'll just say, like, when you're that athletic, even if your tape stinks, and I don't think his tape stinks. I think the way he plays is like very physical. Now he's undersized for sure.
Yep.
And I'm not saying he's going to be an elite player, but just the guy has athletic tools. Athletic tools like that rarely last to 177 where the consensus board has.